Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. So today we are going to continue the 17th chapter, and today we are going to do slokas 17.14 to 17.22. So before we begin, I will say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Hare Krishna. I'll play the slokas now.
देवद्विज गुरुप्राज्ञपूजनं शौचमार्जवम् ब्रह्मचर्यमहिंसा च शारीरं तप उच्यते अनुद्वेगकरं वाक्यं सत्यं प्रियहितं च यत् स्वाध्यायाभ्यसनं चैव वाङ्मयं तप उच्यते मनः प्रसादः सौम्यत्वं मौनमात्मविनिग्रहः भावसंशुद्धिरित्येतत् तपो मानसमुच्यते श्रद्धया परया तप्तं तपस्तत्त्रिविधं नरैः अफलाकाङ्क्षिभिर्युक्तैः सात्विकं परिचक्षते सत्कारमानपूजार्थं तपोदम्भेन चैव यत् क्रियते तदिहं प्रोक्तं राजसं चलमध्रुवम् मूढग्राहेणात्मनो यत्पीडया क्रियते तपः परस्योत्सादनार्थं वा तत्तामसमुदाहृतम् दातव्यमिति यद्दानं दीयतेनुपकारिणे देशे काले च पात्रे च तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतम् यत्तु प्रत्युपकारार्थं फलमुद्दिश्य वा पुनः दीयते च परिक्लिष्टं तद्दानं राजसंस्मृतम् अदेशकाले यद्दानमपात्रेभ्यश्च दीयते असत्कृतमवज्ञातं तत्तामसमुदाहृतम्.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Who is reading today?
It's my turn, Guruji.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. 17.14 When worship of the gods, the Brahmins, the spiritual teachers, the wise, and the elders is done with the observance of cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence, then this worship is declared as the austerity of the body. 17.15 Speech which does not cause distress, which is truthful, pleasant, and beneficial, and the practice of studying the scriptures, these are said to be the austerities of speech. 17.16 Serenity of mind, gentleness, silence, self-control, and purity of thought and purpose, these are said to be the austerities of mind. 17.17 These threefold austerities practiced with supreme faith by those who are not desirous of the fruits of these austerities and who are disciplined is declared to be the nature of goodness, that is sattva. 17.18 Austerity which is performed for the sake of gaining respect, honor and worship and with hypocrisy is declared to be the nature of passion, rajas, and they are unstable and temporary. 17.19 Austerity which is performed with foolish stubbornness, with self-torture or for the purpose of destroying another is declared to be of the nature of ignorance, that is tamas. 17.20 Charity given to a worthy person with the thought that it is one's duty to give to one who cannot give in return at the proper place and time is considered to be of the nature of goodness, sattva. 17.21 But charity which is given with the expectation of getting something in return or with the desire for fruitive results or given reluctantly is considered to be the nature of passion, rajas. 17.22 And charity which is given at the wrong place and wrong time to unworthy person without respect or with contempt is declared to be the nature of ignorance, which is tamas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So
Thank
as you
you.
can see, Lord Krishna is continuing his profound discourse to Arjuna. Now he is elaborating the threefold division of faith according to the gunas. So 17.14 to 22 that we are now studying, they are addressing the three types of austerities, which is also known as tapas, and three types of charity, which is known as dana. So dana and tapas, they are very important aspects of spiritual development. So we are going to talk about that. So what is tapas? A very interesting concept. And as I was saying in this morning's session, we were talking about Swami Samartha and all of this. Sulataji, I think now you can see the parallels, how we are talking about the same thing now in Bhagavad Gita, what we discussed in the Swami Samartha session. So let us now talk about tapas because it's very, very important. One of the most important concepts in spiritual development is tapas, tapa. What does it actually mean? If you look at the literal meaning of tap and tapas, that means to heat up or to burn. You know, in Marathi we say na taplela. And so that is so it's kind of a metaphor, I would say, profound metaphor for spiritual purification, because like for example, you take the golden ore for gold, which is not gold. How do you get gold out of it? Is you put it through a lot of heat, you know, and the heat does the job of purification. And then in the end, what remains is gold. So just like that, the spiritual austerities, that is the fire that we use to purify the body, the speech, and the mind by burning away all the negative tendencies and attachments. See how powerful that concept is. You know, just like you cannot have gold or diamond without heat, the purifying aspect of heat, we cannot have spiritual development without tapas. So it is not that, you know, you cannot just have it. It's not a matter of convenience. It's a matter of conviction. So this is a very recurring theme in the Vedanta. So, you know, the great sage Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, so he made tapas the central component of spiritual practice. So this is written by Patanjali only. He says, Yama Niyama Asana Pranayama Pratyaharaha Dharanaha Dhyana Samadhyostavangani. So this is moral discipline, observance, posture, breath regulation, sense withdrawal, concentration, meditation, and absorption. He said, these are the 8 limbs. This is what makes it Ashtanga Yoga. Now in this, if you see, he starts with Yama, the second is Niyama. But if you go deeper into Niyama itself, and see how Patanjali explains Niyama, he says 5 things there. There's Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishvara, Pranidanani, Niyamaha. So, if you see, Tapaha is right in the middle of Niyama. So, cleanliness, contentment, austerity, self-study, and surrender to the Supreme Lord, he says that is Niyama. After that comes the other parts of yoga. Okay, so if you can see, what is very important here is tapas is characterized not just as self-denial. It is not just, you are trying to say, I will not do this, I will not do that. That is not just it. But it is also a burning enthusiasm for fuel and spiritual growth. That enthusiasm should be the fuel for spiritual growth. If you remember earlier also, we spoke about a sloka from the Upanishads where it said that we have to approach a guru with a lot of enthusiasm, like firewood in our hands. So that theme is also very, very recurring. So what is tapas? It is the disciplined channeling of energy towards higher purpose, which will help burn away the impurities that create obstructions. What obstructions? Obstructions to our connect with that divine. That is the whole concept. I will also open the floor for questions later on, but I hope that gives an idea of what tapas is all about. Tapas is not just some fancy term. It just doesn't mean that it is only done by some, people with long hair and bird sitting in a cave somewhere in a mountain. Tapas is this kind of a disciplined approach where we channelize our energy upwards in the right direction for the sake of purification. That is the whole idea. Now Krishna is explaining more in detail now. So he says tapas also is of 3 types. See the beauty, how deep Krishna goes. Like earlier, Krishna said, everybody thinks faith means it is good. But he said no. Faith also can be bad. Faith also can be luxurious, and faith can be. So you have to know even among faith what is the right faith. Just like that, he says, just tapas doesn't mean if somebody is saying I'm doing tapasya, that doesn't automatically make it a sattvic thing. It doesn't automatically make it something divine. He says even tapas can be good, bad, or ugly. Okay. So let us see what he's talking about. So he's starting in 17.14 and he's defining bodily austerities, and he says that the worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, the spiritual master, and superiors like father, mother, along with cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence, he says that is called as austerity of the body. So what he is talking about now, he is now talking about the 3 dimensions of austerities now. What are the 3 dimensions? He says austerity itself, you can say there is austerity of the body, austerity of the speech, and austerity of the mind. So tapasya, also he's saying body tapasya, speech tapasya, and mind tapasya. See how categorically he goes now. Now he's talking about body tapasya, we just discussed that. So as per his explanation, it is not just discipline, it also involves honoring that which is worthy of respect. In other words, we have to have respect for that which needs to be respected. Maintaining purity, simplicity, and ahimsa, they are all part of that tapasya. See the term Krishna uses there. He says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam. Because if you look at the actual sloka, 17.14, the sloka itself contains the word Dvija. Dvija is twice born, and this is one aspect I wanted to clarify because some people translate that sloka and they just call it Brahmins. True, Brahmins are called as twice born, but Krishna is not saying that you have to respect only Brahmins. Because Krishna has not used the word Brahmin there. Krishna has used the word Dvija. What Dvija means is twice born. What does twice born mean? Twice born does not just mean you are a Brahmin. Twice born basically means a spiritual rebirth through initiation and self-realization. That is what makes you twice born. So once you are born physically and once you are born spiritually. The Brahmins are expected to focus on spiritual evolution. That is why the word twice born was attributed to Brahmins, but it doesn't mean just Brahmin. It means anybody who is endeavoring for that spiritual birth. And that is twice born. So in other words, I keep using the word in other words because Krishna uses so many profound terms that I am trying to really use different words to explain. So what is the key thing here to take away is spiritual attainment is not a matter of birth. It is a matter of practice. Krishna has made it very clear. Okay? Very, very important. So if you are a Brahmin, good. Nothing wrong about it. But we shouldn't get into a mindset of pride now. Because I am a Brahmin, so somehow automatically I have a highway to heaven. No, that's not the case. And just like that, if you are born in a lower caste, you shouldn't become sad and depressed thinking, I don't have any path to God. That is also not true. Okay, birth is one thing, and how we conduct ourselves in this birth, what is our kriyamana karma, that determines whether we go towards spiritual evolution or no. Very, very important. And then he speaks about now very important aspect of verbal austerity, speech, vak. And so what are the things that Krishna says? So when we say tapasya, see, I hope you're all following what we are discussing here. What Krishna is saying, it is very easy to follow and it is very easy to apply. Even if you can apply this 17.14 through 17.22 in your daily lives, you will see the purification very quickly. Yeah, because he's very clearly given a manual there. So he says tapasya is extremely important. Once you understood that, then he says tapasya has got 3 dimensions. For a human, it is a tapasya of body, tapasya of mind, and tapasya of speech. Now he's explaining each of them. So if we can understand this, and then we can all become tapasvis. No, you don't need any secret mantra. You don't need any, secret membership in some fancy club. Nothing is required. Just understand this. So he just spoke about body. Now he's speaking about speech. So according to Krishna, what does it mean, tapasya of speech? Each one of us should do this tapasya. This will be one of the most important tapasya that we do. So Krishna says tapasya of speech involves 4 things. 1, speech that should not agitate others. Very straightforward. 2nd, speech that is aligned with truth. Satya. 3rd, speech which is pleasant. And 4th, speech that benefits the listener. So if you want to talk, then talk something that will also benefit the other person. Don't just talk yapping about yourself. I'm so cool, I'm so great, I did this. That doesn't benefit the other person in any way, right? So this categorically Krishna says this is tapasya of speech. Additionally, what he says also, the recitation of the holy name as well as sacred texts. This all together, he says, is tapasya of speech. See, one thing I want to reiterate here is the words that we use, our speech is very, very powerful because it has a very, very huge impact on everybody. Now, I spoke about this earlier. There was a great civilization called the Toltecs. You can take it down, you can do your own research. Toltecs, Toltecs. They were a very great civilization. They were supposed to have achieved spiritual evolution and spiritual advancement, great levels of advancement. As a whole, it was not just 1 or 2 people, but the entire community seems to have found a way to evolve together. And so there was a lot of research that went into it, and people tried to figure out what was the basis of that fast evolution. And the research showed that the Toltecs, they lived based on just 4 principles. And they followed those 4 principles very religiously. Out of those 4 principles, the first and the most important one was be impeccable with your word. Don't say anything that you don't mean. If you don't mean it, don't say it. And if you say it, you better mean it. Yeah, of course, I'm there for you anytime. You can call me anytime. I'm here for you. You need any help, I'll be there. And after a couple of weeks, that guy comes in front of you. You're like, hello, what's your name? I forgot. So these are all like, why do you think we have to be impeccable with the word? Do you think any logical connection to what you have learned so far? Why do you think it is important that you are impeccable with your word? Okay, I have one, I have two. Yes, Deepaji, what do you want to say?
You have to be genuine. What you're inside, you're outside. You cannot be two-faced.
Excellent, excellent. You got it. Rajeshji, you wanted to say something?
I was thinking in terms of truthfulness.
That is the same. You both are saying the same thing. You know, being genuine means you're aligned with the truth. Correct? And how can you realize that Sat Chidananda if you're not aligned with Sat? See how it all connects, the dots connect. That is why it is so important to be impeccable with your word. So the word is very, very important. The funny thing is, if you have to harm somebody physically, you yourself have to be strong. You have to have some capability to harm somebody physically. But verbally, you can be on a wheelchair and still cause a lot of damage using, the wrong words. So that is why it is very, very important that we do tapasya of our speech. Extremely important. So that brings us to the 17th pragma. 17th pragma says, always be mindful of your words. Choose to be silent if you have nothing good to say. That itself is a very big tapasya. This is not a tapasya that requires any special ability. Each one of us can do this tapasya. And if we can start practicing it from now onwards, you will see a change. You will see that raising your level of consciousness. Try it out. Now Krishna talks about mental austerity, tapasya of mind. What does he say? He says it is consisting of serenity of mind, gentleness, silence, self-control, purity of purpose. See how the first tapasya leads to the second tapasya. Where in the first tapasya, Krishna said, if you don't have anything good to say, it is better not to say anything. And then when he says tapasya of the mind, one of the aspects he says, silence, he says is one of the tapasyas of the mind. Because the mind always wants, people to know what's on your mind. Are you not always, hungry to tell people what's on my mind? That is why it is tapasya of the mind. One of the things is be silent. Try to learn to be silent. So he says there are 5 aspects of tapasya of mind. What are they? First, calmness of mind. Samatvam. Samatvam is a tapasya. Second, gentleness or kindness in the mind. Not just fixing it in the word, but actually fixing it right in the mind. Third, thoughtful silence. What does thoughtful silence means? Is it really required for me to say something? Is it going to benefit somebody? If it's not going to benefit somebody, I may know the answer. I may know something better. I may have 15 things that I can share, but is it going to benefit anybody at this point? If not, tapasya. Let me choose to be silent. Why it is called thoughtful silence? It is not silence out of fear. It is not silence out of laziness. It is not silence out of, I'm not just interested. It is a thoughtful silence. Self-control, sama, dama. We learned that. And the 5th, purity of intent. The intent has to be always pure. So these 5 aspects he says is tapasya of mind. Does anybody remember any powerful lessons on mind that we learned in Bhagavad Gita earlier? Okay, I have 1 hand, 2, 3, 4. Rajeshji, what did we learn?
It's about mind is our best friend, at the same time it can be our worst enemy. Is
Thank
that
you.
what you're...
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. Uddaret atmanat manam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva nipur atmanah. One, you have to elevate yourself by the power of your own mind. And we should not degrade ourselves, because the mind can be the friend as well as the enemy. Perfect. Krishna goes on to say that for one who has controlled the mind is the best friend. So you have to elevate yourself is the first advice. And the second advice is you have to control your mind. Very important. Otherwise your mind will become a troublemaker. And then he goes on to say, do you remember this? I think I used to jokingly attribute this to Lakshmi ji, saying, Shitoshna Sukha Dukkha. Where he says, learn to tolerate heat, cold, because that is what helps us control the mind and make it calm. That is what helps. That is a tapasya. A little bit of heat, you don't have to run to the AC. A little bit of cold, you don't have to run to the heater. That is a tapasya in itself that everybody can see. There is this other philosopher. His name was Lao Tzu, Chinese philosopher, and there is a religion called Taoism. So he is pretty much one of the founders of Taoism. It's a very philosophical religion. So there he says something very powerful. He says, watch your thoughts. Why? Because they become your words. He says, then watch your words. Why? Because they become your actions. Then he says, watch your actions. Why? Because they become your habits. Then he says, watch your habits. He says, why? Because they become your character. And he says, and watch your character. Why? Because that becomes your destiny. So when somebody says your destiny is in your hands, this is what it means. So where did it all start? Thoughts. So this is what everybody says. The way you think, you become. It's not a magic. It's a very scientific truth, because thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become habits, and habits become character, and character becomes destiny. So beautifully given. Okay, so this is why even Krishna has been categorically telling us austerity of body, austerity of speech, austerity of mind, all this together helps us shape our destiny through our character. And then now Krishna goes to the other dimension and he says, how do you now classify austerities? By the gunas, based on gunas. He spoke about the dimensions of austerity, body, mind, speech. Now he's talking about austerities from the guna perspective. What kind of tapas is good, what is bad, and what is ugly. I mean, I'm using a very funny term, but he's talking about what is sattvic, what is rajasic, and what is tamasic. So he starts with sattvic austerity or sattvic tapasya, and he says that this is the tapasya that is practiced by people with great faith and without desiring any material benefits. And it is all for the sake of being aligned with the Supreme. He says that is sattvic. There are two principal qualities he's calling out there. One is shraddhaya. The shraddha, you already know the word. Faith, very important. The second aspect is paraya. Paraya means supreme. And it is performed without expectation. Afala akangshibi. It is not driven based on results. Says that is sattvic austerity. Why it is sattvic? Because it helps us in the true sense to burn our impurities and align us with that divine. Isn't it similar to the concept of nishkama karma that we learned earlier on? So Shri Krishna has already gone into detail about this aspect on how to perform actions without being attached to the results. So you can take down that word nishkama karma, go back to your notes and see if that makes sense. And what is rajasic now? So rajasic tapas, Krishna says, they are the ones which are performed primarily for gaining something. What kind of things? If you want to gain respect, I want to gain honor, I want to gain reverence, out of pride, that is passion. Rajas. So that kind of tapasya is rajas. So if you are saying, I'm going to stand on one leg for 10 years. Why? But then everybody will say, he's such a great yogi. People will build a temple in my name, and I will have 1 million followers. That is tapasya, but it is rajasic. See, whereas when Dhruva performed tapasya, Dhruva also sat in the forest. He also said, I'm not going to eat or drink or anything. The only thing I'm going to focus on is God. But then he got the darshan of God within 6 months. Why? Whereas there are stories of yogis who have been standing on one leg and hanging upside down for 1,000 years. Why? Krishna beautifully calls it out here. What was the intent? Now, if you go back to tapasya of mind, one of the dimensions he said was purity of intent. See, that is what, connecting the dots here, he says that kind of tapasya is rajasic. So you may get what you want. You may get, a lot of name, fame, but is that the goal of tapasya? You're missing the whole point. So in the notes, I will also give you references to Chandogya Upanishad. There is a lot to cover today, so I'm trying not to go into too many of these slokas. The references. So please read the notes carefully, because there are many things in the notes which I'm not talking today, because there is a lot to cover. Okay, but there is a Chandogya Upanishad in the 8th chapter. It says very beautifully that everything perishes. So it talks about the aspect of temporary nature of everything. So if you're going to do rajasic tapas, then your focus is to gain something. Then you're forgetting that everything is temporary. So that tapasya is basically wasted. Because you are doing tapasya to gain something which is temporary, which is going to be lost soon. So what was the whole point? See? So another way of talking about the same thing. And then tamasic tapasya. Yes, tapasya can also be tamasic. So what is that aspect of tapasya? Krishna says that tapasya that is performed out of foolish stubbornness. Foolish stubbornness is what is also known as delusion. No, it is your own idea. It is your own belief. And you are hanging on to it just because of your own pride and ego. No, you have made up your mind one way. And things like self-torture, just harming your body or harming somebody else in the name of, this is what we spoke in the last session, mindlessly going and saying, I'm sacrificing an animal to please God. You are pleasing neither the animal nor God, It is foolishness, it is delusional. And you are harming that animal. So that kind of so-called tapasya is tamasic, is what Krishna is saying. Now, Krishna also says that tamasic tapasya, fundamentally it comes from 3 problematic sources. So see, Krishna so beautifully, he, connects everything together so nicely. He doesn't just say this is tamasic tapasya. He's also saying, what is the cause of it? Why? What makes people do such kind of senseless things? He says the first problematic cause is foolish obstinacy. Obstinacy means stubbornness. Muda grahena. Second is self-torture. It is just a nature. Atmanaha pidaya. Pida is taklif, trouble. Giving trouble to your own self. And the third is the intent is not pure. The intent is to harm. So that is what he calls as parasyot sadhanartham. That is, he says these are the 3 very problematic sources of such tamasic tapasya. It is misguided. So we have to be very careful of that. So whenever we think we are doing tapasya or somebody else comes to you for advice and asks you, can I do this? You have to counsel them this way on, what is the intent? Is the most fundamental question that needs to be clarified. Okay, now he spoke about tapa, now he's talking about dana next. Because dana and tapa, we said, they are 2 very important aspects of spiritual evolution. And he starts with sattvic. So even danam or charity, he says, can be sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. So what is sattvic dana? There are 4 qualities of sattvic dana. First, it is given out of a sense of duty. Datavyam iti. So why you are giving? Because you are giving it because you think that's the right thing to do. That is the first. Second, without expectation or results. The same thing. Are you giving charity because today if I help Rajesh, today if I give him $100, then tomorrow when I'm in need, he may give me $200. So am I doing this calculation? If I'm doing that kind of calculation, then it is not charity. At least not sattvic charity. So without expectation, if you do, that is sattvic charity. Third, right time, right place. Deshe kale. And the fourth, very important, to a worthy person. See, if you introspect, be it knowledge or be it just charity, Vedanta very clearly says that you have to make sure that the person receiving is worthy enough. Otherwise, don't waste knowledge, don't waste money. Okay, it's not right. So even a teacher, if the teacher is not careful who they are giving what knowledge, then that is also wrong. Okay, for many reasons which we will go into much depths little later. The very important thing is sattvic charity. One of the other aspects is giving to somebody who cannot reciprocate. Very important. Can we do that? See, if you honestly introspect, you will realize that it is very hard. Whenever we give anything, be it time, be it love, be it money, somewhere we think that some of it will come back or some of it will be reciprocated. Correct? We don't spend time with people who we don't consider as important. Think about it. It happens to all of us. They have to be either powerful or famous, or they have to be maybe working in a company where I may get a job tomorrow, or they have to be socially successful. Something has to be there. When was the last time we spent time with somebody just because we wanted to spend time with somebody? Very, very difficult for us to do. Even if it is with our own relatives, it is because we expect to be liked in return. Correct? So this is very important. If it has to be tapasya, and if it has to be sattvic charity, try practicing giving to people who you know cannot reciprocate in any way. And are you still able to give? Very important. This is not the same as indiscriminate giving. It is very important. Distinction is very important. You have to have discernment. Make sure that you are giving to the right person. But don't put a condition that that person has to reciprocate. A right person, but the person cannot reciprocate. Can you still do charity? Then that is sattvic charity. Because the Upanishads very beautifully say that if you are going to give only to those who can reciprocate, then it is not charity, it is a business transaction. Correct? Very, very appropriate. So it is there in the Taittiriya Upanishad also, where it says Shraddhaya Deyam, Ashraddhaya Deyam, Shriya Deyam, Priya Deyam, Diya Deyam, Samvida Deyam. So he says gifts should be given with faith. It should never be given without faith. Very important. It should be given in plenty, but with modesty. Like give a lot, but don't get into a mindset of pride. I'm giving you so much. No? Give a lot, but give with modesty. And give with kindness. And make sure that you only have friendly feelings. It's not like, oh, I have to give. Because you think it will make you look good, but in the heart you are not feeling good about giving. And that is all not sattvic charity. Very important. Then rajasic charity, he says, there are three qualities of a rajasic charity. One, he says it is given reluctantly. Pariklistam. Second, with expectation. Of course, this we just covered. Without expectation, sattvic. With expectation, rajasic. See how beautiful it is. The act is the same. What you give is the same. Who you give is also the same. But your intent makes it either sattvic or rajasic. That is why now if you see, go back, that is why this tapasya of mind is so important. Because your mind, if you don't have the austerity, tapasya, then most of what you do, you may think you are doing something good, but you are not. You are actually increasing your own rajoguna unknowingly. And third, with the aim of obtaining some benefits, we already spoke about it. Then tamasic charity. Can charity be tamasic? It seems surprising, right? How can charity be tamasic? Yeah, Krishna says, yes, charity can also be tamasic. And he says there are 4 flaws or 4 aspects. 1, if you give it in inappropriate places and times, adesha kale. If you give to unworthy people, apatra be, na patram apatram, no, not worthy, without proper respect, asakrutam. So don't just throw money at somebody. No, that is tamasic. And with disdain or contempt, avagyatam. See, the issue of giving to unworthy or apatra, you have to give careful consideration to that, because if you give to the unworthy type of people, it becomes tamasic. It may sound kind of very surprising, but it is a fact. Now, I can give a very simple example, but this is not the only example. No, let us say you are giving money to a organization, but that organization turns out to be some organization that is funding terrorism. Now, what is happening? You gave some money, and that money was used by somebody to harm people. Now you get that negative karma. So that is one of the simplest ways of explaining why that patra, in other words, the recipient, you have to be very sure that they are worthy of your knowledge or worthy of your charity. Even knowledge is the same thing. You want to teach advanced nuclear physics to somebody. You think teaching is sattvic, is it? Because the person you are teaching to is a very cruel person, and they use that knowledge to go build a bomb and blow up city. You will definitely get the negative karma, because you did not have the discernment on whether that person is worthy of this knowledge. See, so be it knowledge, be it money, be it anything, that discernment is extreme. It is very different from judgment. We are not asking anyone to become judgmental. No, we are asking people to be discerning. Discernment is a very non-judgmental, objective analysis of is it the right place, right time, right person. Very, very important. In fact, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that it is better not to give at all than to give to an unworthy recipient. Just like they said in the tapasya of speech, it is better not to speak at all rather than speak something wrong. Just like that, it is better not to give. If the choice is between not giving and giving to an unworthy person, choose not giving. So we are trying to emphasize how important it is to have that discernment. So what are some of the practical applications? Some very simple ones for bodily tapas, bodily austerity, maintain cleanliness. Very important, very simple. That is why in our culture they said that you have to take a bath every day. They made it more like a religious rule. They will just say that if you don't take a bath, God will come and pinch you or something. But this was the whole idea of Shocham is one of the first tapasya of body. Second, show respect to spiritual teachers and elders through appropriate gestures and service. Third, practice simplicity in what you wear, what you eat. And of course, try to practice discipline even in the sexual. Don't try to don't try to let that energy go out of control. It shouldn't control you. You should control it. So celibacy, everybody can't practice, but regulated is the key word here. And non-violence, ahimsa. These are some of the practical tips for bodily austerity. And austerity of speech, we already discussed. Very simple things. Always try to align with truth. One very important thing, again, I want to remind you, ahimsa supersedes, satya. So yes, truth is important, but ahimsa is even more important. So you cannot become like a, senseless, mindless person who is like, I will only speak the truth, and all the time you are getting other people in trouble. That is also not right. So that is why, go back what Krishna said. If you don't have anything that can benefit somebody, then don't say anything. Okay. Practice japa, very important for speech. Nothing is more purifying than japam, chanting the holy name, in Kali Yuga at least. Mental austerity, meditation, very important. Practice regular meditation. Self-control, purity of intention, and one very important technique we discussed earlier, gratitude, because gratitude aligns you with truth, because that is the truth. No, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram and Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, that is the truth. We don't own anything. So whatever we have, we didn't earn anything, we didn't deserve anything. So we have to be grateful for everything. But that is also aligned with the truth, and that is another way of tapasya of mind. Okay. So if you see, the underlying theme in all of these austerities is the intention. The intention makes all the difference. So what you do is not as important as how you do it. Very, very important. So there is a beautiful sloka in the Chandogya Upanishad that says, I'll just read the English version to make it faster, is just as cotton thread, when you place it in fire, it burns away completely. Just like that, all the sins gets burnt away by the learned one who offers tapasya through that knowledge. So of course, the Upanishad words are a little cryptic and all. The essence of tapas is, it is very transformative. It is spiritual heat. And that is very, very transformative, because it does not destroy. It is a kind of heat which does not destroy, but it purifies. And if you do the tapasya with pure intention, then that is pretty much what is required. So whenever the great learned one says sadhana ki jarurat hai, aap sun ke dekhiye. You try listening to some of these great saints. They will all talk about sadhana being very important. So what is sadhana? Sadhana is not that I can do 12 asanas, I can do Padmasana, I can do Shirshasana. Yeah, okay, you can do it, but that itself doesn't make it a sadhana. What you need is tapasya. And what kind of tapasya? Satvik tapasya. And what is Satvik tapasya? We just learned. And that if we do, we have to do, then our spiritual evolution is guaranteed. So even chanting a name, yes, Harer Nama, we said we have to do that. But how are you doing it? Are you like going around with this kind of mala bag on your neck, and people are talking to you, you are like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and everybody has to say, oh, this person is so spiritual, this person is just so elevated. Is that the goal? Then that chanting is not taking you anywhere. Krishna is very beautifully, very powerfully now tied everything together, because he has asked us to do many things throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Now in the 17th chapter, he is telling us how they are to be done. What should be the most important aspects behind anything we do for spiritual evolution. Beautifully, in just 6 or 7 slokas, he has covered the essence of that. So if we keep that in mind. Interested in a short story? Okay. Some of you may know this story already, because this story ties to some of the things we learned now. So in the Mahabharata, there is a story where Yudhishthira was performing a very magnificent yajna, sacrifice. That kind of yajna is known as Rajasuya yajna. Very grand. And why was he doing it? Because he wanted to proclaim his sovereignty. He wanted to proclaim that now he was Samrat. And he also wanted to showcase his righteousness, that he is the Dharam Raja also. He's not just the Raja of land and masses, he was also Dharma Raja. So of course, because he is now a Samrat and he's a Dharma Raja also, he is doing a grand yajna. And he is giving away like wealth and gold and food, and it is absolutely unmatched. That kind of sacrifice is going on. And then something very remarkable happens, because when the yajna was in the final stages, You know what a mongoose is? A mongoose is an animal that can fight with a snake and win. A mongoose enters the yagya when, Yudhishthira was feeding his guests. First of all, a mongoose entering is itself a little strange, but what was even more strange is half the body of the mongoose was golden and half the body was normal. And everybody is very curious, like what's going on. So the mongoose goes to a yagya means a big fire. And when there is a big fire, there is ash. And in any yagya, the ash is considered as very sacred. In fact, some people, especially people from the south, they know the concept of vibhuti, or even Sai Baba, like we talk about the udi. Udi that is pretty much the remnants of a yagya. That is why it is so sacred. So all the ash is lying on the periphery of the yagya. So the mongoose is going and it is rolling in the ashes, and it is rolling very purposefully because it keeps rolling, it keeps checking something, it is disappointed, it is rolling again, and people are kind of stunned. People are, what exactly is happening? And then suddenly it talks in a human voice and it says, "Oh King Yudhishthira, I hope that this great yagya will be pure enough to transform the rest of my body into gold. But as you can see, it didn't happen. This yagya is really not as great as you think it is." Now people are stunned. He's a Samrat Yudhishthir and a mongoose. He's now criticizing Samrat Yudhishthir and his great Rajasuya yagya. Yudhishthir himself is shocked. Yudhishthir is saying, "Why do you say that my sacrifice isn't good enough? Why do you say that my yagya is not good enough?" Then the mongoose recites the story. Mongoose says, a long time ago, there was a huge famine. And famine, there was no food, there was no water. People were in a lot of poverty. And there was this Brahmana and his family who were very, very poor. They were struggling even to get a one-time meal. And just when, one day they found enough food to have just one mouthful for each member of the family. They found just that much food. And they were all hungry. They were about to eat. At that time, a hungry traveler knocks on their door. And he says, "I'm hungry. Give me food." Now, the dharma in those days was, you cannot turn away any guest hungry. So, the Brahmana willingly gives away his own food to the guest. But the guest eats it and says, "I'm still hungry." Now, the Brahmana's wife, what is her dharma? Her dharma is to supporting her husband's dharma. Supporting her husband is a primary dharma. So she gives away her share of the food also, and she does it joyfully. The Brahmana also does it joyfully, not regretfully. So it was Satvik Tapasya that we just read. They are not giving out of fear, they are not giving out of pressure, they are not giving out of, contempt. They are giving it happily because that is the right thing to do. And the guest is saying, "I'm still hungry." Now the daughter-in-law, like that, every family member, they start offering whatever they had. They had only little anyways, So without any consideration for their own hunger, they do what is the right thing. They follow the dharma and they feed this stranger, this guest. Now, this is so beautiful because the guest is so moved by this that he blesses the whole family. He blesses the whole family wholeheartedly. And the mongoose says that I was there witnessing all of this. I witnessed all of this and I was so touched that I saw some little bit of food which was spilt and lying on the floor when the guest had finished eating. I just rolled on that out of my reverence for this family, out of the reverence for what they just did. I was so touched that I just rolled on that food on the floor. And he says, lo and behold, there was only enough to touch half my body, but the half body that touched it became gold. Oh, wow. He says, ever since I have been trying to find another such yagya, which is worthy enough to turn the other half of my body also into gold. And I have failed. He says, finally, I came here thinking that you are Yudhishthira, the greatest of the great, and your yajna should be good enough. But no, it was not good enough. Your yajna was not good as even that performed by that poor Brahmana. No, you see, this is so powerful because it conveyed the message very clearly to Yudhishthira. Naitattava mahayagye tulam gacchati parthiva brahmanasya hi daridryam yatadataram mahipate. He says, O king, your great sacrifice does not equal the selfless one given by the poor Brahmana family. They gave everything in spite of their poverty. And look at you. You are so rich and you are so wealthy and you are just making a show. So this is supposed to have been the eye-opener for Yudhishthira, where he realized the mistake that he's committing. Needless to say, the story then goes on how Yudhishthira himself had a change of heart and all of that. But I hope this, makes sense to you, because Yudhishthira was greatly humbled. Yudhishthira then realized the difference between sattvic tapas, rajasic tapas, and tamasic tapas. He realized it at that point. So this is perfectly aligning with what we learned in this 17.14 to 17.22. That's why I thought I'll try to convey the story as shortly as possible without losing the essence, but you can go read the full story. It is a little more dramatic than what I told you. So I hope all this is making sense to all of you, my dear Satsanga. I've tried my best to not take too much of your time. So Hare Krishna, with that I can stop talking and I can open the floor for any questions, comments. Looks like everybody's doing tapasya now.
Yeah, so I have a question. So if somebody does charity to say some organization and the information they have is that the organization has good, they're using it for good purpose as such, but later on they come to know that, like you said, terrorists, they are funding terrorists, but this person's intent was good, will he still incur any negative karma?
See, I can give you a pleasing answer and I can also give you a strict answer. The pleasing answer is okay, you didn't know what you were doing, be careful the next time, all of that, of course. Learn your lesson. Next time when you give, make sure that you are doing more research and, why do you have to go and give to a unknown? Are they not so many known entities that you could have given anyways? And so that's all a pleasing answer. The strict answer is, even if you look at material law, in your own country, it applies in USA, it applies in Canada, it applies in India also. Do you know that not knowing is not a criteria for innocence? For example, you go in a one-way road, as simple as that. A cop is catching you and saying, hey, you have come in a one-way, wrong way. And you are saying, but I did not know this is a one-way road. That does not make you innocent. You are still guilty. So not knowing doesn't make you innocent. Ajnana is not the same as innocence. So it is our job, it is our duty. So we have to do more due diligence. Very, very important. Everybody can make a mistake, but we have to learn from it and we have to be more diligent. We have to use our discernment even more. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay. I hope looks like this is leaving you with a lot of thoughts. So my blessings and best wishes. May we all, become tapasvis in the right way. And it is easy. It can be done. It just needs some genuineness and it just needs some consistency. And this is all. We can all do the tapasya and we can burn away our impurities beautifully. So Hare Krishna.
I think
Deepa had to say something?
No, I just wanted to share a kind of a thought. Tapas can also be referred to as hard work with focused approach. Like, of course, you give the heat element of it and the burning aspect of it. But at the end of it, it is your hard work, your commitment, your dedication, your focus will help you.
Tapasya is hard work. Tapasya is hard work.
Hard work. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, so tapasya is hard work. Again, the focus is, but why? Why are you working hard? Is the whole point. If you are saying I'm working hard just as a tapasya, that's beautiful.
Mm.
But if you're working hard because that will give you a promotion, you're working hard because you will get a medal, because anytime there is a lot of these becauses, that makes it rajasic and almost borderline tamasic. That is all. That is what Krishna meant. Karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Where do work, definitely hard work, but not because you are attached to what is that going to give you.
And you also mentioned about faith. Maybe I've lost a thought. Faith can be two types. Faith can also be bad. So, can you just elaborate on what do you mean by
Just
that?
please go ahead and revise the previous session. That was there. We discussed all about faith and how faith itself can be. For example, simple thing we discussed: somebody goes and blows away 100 people in a mall,
Okay.
but then they say, if you ask them, they will say they did it out of faith. They had faith. They will go to heaven. You see, that is tamasic.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome, most welcome. Yes, Sulata ji.
Solitude, moderation, and choosing Shreya over Priya all helps in our tapasya, isn't it?
That is all tapasya. That is tapasya only. Every time you say, I'm choosing Shreya over Priya, that is a tapasya. That is tapasya of mind. Every time you are saying, I'm choosing a little bit of solitude over just social noise, that is tapasya. If you go back to the same notes that we just discussed about austerity of the mind, one of the attributes that Krishna spoke about was solitude. Like for speech, it is silence. For mind, it is solitude. Yes, you are right. Yes, Asha ji.
One observation. I'm sure everybody would have this. Sunita Williams, when she was coming down, one of the things that she had was the Bhagavad Gita. She's yeah. I mean, the things that along what she carried with her was the Bhagavad Gita.
Definitely, yes. Beautiful. Asha ji, what are you saying?
Yes, Guruji. After today's session, what things are coming into my mind? Maybe they are wrong, maybe they are correct. So what I'm thinking, today's word, talking truth and pleasant, that may be difficult. So we need to choose a silence. Another thing, you said we need to research and then do the charity and that stuff. So what thing is coming to my mind is, instead of going and doing charity, if something is coming towards us, like that Brahmin, someone knocked on his door and then he had got the chance to do the charity. In that case, only do the charity. So these kind of things are coming into my mind. So are they okay?
So if I can rephrase what you asked me, the first was austerity of speech, where you said basically you are not able to speak the truth also and speak something pleasant also, because the truth is not pleasant. That's what you are saying. So
Most of the cases.
yeah. So you are asking, is it better to stay silent? So that depends. So a karma, it shouldn't become, you have to do right. For example, if your son comes to you and says, Mom, this is what I like to eat. Now, it is not good for his health. But there it's okay if it is not pleasant. Because what is your duty at that point is to make sure he's on the right track. Or if your son has a habit which is not good, so you'll have to call it out. There the truth doesn't have to be pleasant. But then at that instance, it is your duty. See, so you have to take these things in the context. What you say should not harm anybody, and your silence should also not harm anybody. There may be a case where you speaking the truth may save somebody. There, don't worry about what people are going to think about you. See, so you have to take all of. So there is no formula that says, be silent, it is good, or speak, it is good, right? So it has to come in the context. The context is very important, and that comes with practice. That is why tapasya has to be practiced consistently, and you will get good at it. Okay. Now the second, you spoke about charity. Now, first of all, again ask the same question: is it your job to go finding people who need help? Are you in that position? No, then it's okay. You don't have to do that. And if somebody comes to you, definitely do what is the right thing to do after your due diligence. Okay, but say you are a social worker, then it is your job. It is your job to go and find who are the deserving people, because you have been given funds which are supposed to be spent on people, and it is your job to reach out and find out who is the right person to receive. So there the context matters. Just like that, you don't have to go giving gyan to people. It's okay. You don't have to go and compulsorily talk about, I will tell you what is right thing to do. No, it is not your job. But if you are a teacher, then it is your job. If you are a teacher, then it is your job to make sure that you go behind the students, that you try to make sure that the right student gets the right knowledge. You see what I'm saying? So your questions are correct, but the answer is not just a yes, no answer. The answer is the context is what is very important. And that is why Krishna has spent 18 chapters to talk about these things, where he's connecting everything with each other. See, the bhava matters and the context matters. Does it make sense, Ashaji?
Yes, Guruji. Thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I think it was a very fruitful session. My best wishes again with all of you. Please try to practice tapasya. Even if you do a little bit every day, it will all add up. Every day if you can do a little bit of tapasya of mind, tapasya of speech, tapasya of body, it all adds up. So again, blessings and best wishes. Hare Krishna. See you all in the next session.
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guruji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.